Okay, so you can see the slide.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. So so again, fauna for diffraction. This is the second part of our lecture, and in the previous class we did single slit diffraction, and today onwards we will do more than one slit, that is double slit and multiple slit diffraction and applications there. All right. Okay. So Fraunhofer diffraction due to a double slit. So this is basically the schematic diagram where you can see there are two slits over here. AB is one slit and CD is the other slit, and light is diffracted. Just a second. Okay, so light is diffracted by these two slits AB and CD, and BC here is the opaque space between the two slits. So you can see that there is one beam of rays which are coming out straight from the slits, and so they go and meet at the point P over here, and there is another set that are diffracted at an angle theta with the horizontal, and they go and meet at another point P prime. So different sets of parallel rays diffracted at different angles with the horizontal will be converged to the screen, different points on the screen, by this lens L, because we have kept the screen at the focal plane of the lens. Okay, and of course our incoming rays are parallel, because there too we have kept a lens in front of the diverging beam which has rendered parallel rays. So parallel rays, plane wave fronts, hit the two slits, and the two slits then diffract them in different angles because of the obstruction that the wave fronts face, and then they again meet at different points on the screen, and then we have to see that what are the conditions under which they meet in phase producing bright fringes, and what are the conditions when they produce dark fringes, and in general what is the intensity pattern in this case. All right, so let us describe the setup a little bit. The width of each slit is B. Each slit has uh, a wideness of B units, so B is the slit width, and the distance between two slits is A, that is the width of the opaque space between the two slits is A. All right. Now the assumption in order to do the mathematical analysis is the same as that we had done in a single slit. That is, the first slit consists of imaginary points A1, A2, A3, etc. up to AN, and the two consecutive such imaginary points are delta distance apart, right? So B is equal to small n into delta. Again, the second slit also consists of imaginary points, and just to differentiate from the first slit, we say that these imaginary points are positioned at B1, B2, etc. up to Bn, but the distance between these two imaginary points is also delta. Okay, so we have n imaginary points in the first slit, where n tends to infinity and delta tends to 0, so that small b equal to n delta, and again n number of imaginary points in the second slit, where n tends to infinity and delta tends to 0, so that once again small b is equal to n delta. All right, so this is our assumption, and this is the scheme that we are going to follow. Now for a particular slit, we had calculated this in our last class when we did single slit diffraction. The phase difference between the rays from the consecutive sources that are diffracted at an angle theta is given by 2 pi by lambda delta sine theta. we had calculated this, remember we had taken two such imaginary points A1 and A2, and we saw that if they are diffracted at an angle theta, then the path difference between these two is given by delta sine theta, so that the phase difference between these two rays is 2 pi by lambda delta sine theta. This is the same for both the slits, for any two rays coming out from consecutive imaginary sources. Now let us take a good look at the slit system once again before we go on to our mathematical analysis. So these are the two slits, as you can see, of width B, and the opaque space between the slits is A, small a. Now we choose a pair of imaginary points placed in the first slit and in the second slit. Okay, corresponding pair. So if I take the ith imaginary point in the first slit, I take the ith imaginary point in the second slit. Since I have considered same number of imaginary points in both the slits, so if I take suppose A5 in the first slit, I take B5 in the second slit. All right, corresponding imaginary points in the two slits, AI and BI. Remember that A plus B is equal to D. So I would be given the values of A and B when I am doing an experiment on double slit diffraction. I would be given the values of the opaque space and the slit width. So I know A and B, and I take the sum of these two as D. Now you must also realize that this D is also the gap between a pair of corresponding imaginary points in the two slits. So D is also the distance between AI and BI. I hope all of you realize that. Okay, this A remains common. So this would be the entire B minus the upper portion, and this would be the entire small b minus the lower portion, since AI and BI are corresponding pair of points. Therefore, that would give me B, so that this entire distance is A plus B. All right. So D is equal to A plus B, and we must also realize that for every corresponding pair of imaginary points in the two slits, the distance between two such points is also D. Okay, that is AI BI equal to D. All right. Now, as usual, we have taken two rays, one coming out from AI and the other coming out from BI, and I draw a perpendicular from AI onto the ray coming out from BI, and AIO is the perpendicular from AI on the diffracted ray from BI. All right. And these two diffracted rays are actually diffracted at an angle theta with the horizontal. Okay. So the path difference between these two diffracted rays as they go and meet on the screen after being converged by the lens is this distance. AI, the ray from AI has already started, and the ray from BI, after starting, their journey together starts after this distance delta prime, because that is the distance that the perpendicular from AI onto BI, the ray from BI makes. So delta prime is the path difference that is incorporated between these two rays, and remember, it is because of delta prime that there will be a phase difference, and that phase difference will be the actual reason for any kind of fringe that is produced on the screen. Okay, so we need to see what this value of delta prime is. Path difference, as you can see, if you take the triangle AIBIO, then the value of delta prime is given by AIBI sine theta, but AIBI is equal to D, so delta prime is AIBI sine theta equal to D sine theta. And therefore, the phase difference between these two rays is given by phi prime equal to 2 pi by lambda delta prime. Phase difference is 2 pi by lambda times path difference, and therefore the phase difference is 2 pi by lambda d sine theta. So you can realize now that the entire set of rays that come out from the first slit inclined at an angle theta with the horizontal, and the entire set of rays that come out from the second slit and are inclined at an angle theta with the horizontal are differing by a phase of phi prime. Okay, so all the rays coming from the second slit inclined at an angle theta lag by a phase phi all the rays that come out from the first slit inclined at the same angle theta. So this realization at this point is extremely important. Okay, what is the actual meaning of this phase difference? This is not only the phase difference between AI and BI, this is the phase difference between any such AI and any such BI placed in the two slits. All right, and the value is given by 2 pi by lambda d sine theta. Okay, so therefore at any point P prime on the screen, then this is the point P prime where the rays meet. So at any such point P prime, the field due to the rays diffracted by the first slit, I call it E1, is given by A sine beta by beta cos omega t minus beta. And from where do I get this result? From our single slit diffraction result. Remember, we had derived this result of field at a point P on the screen due to all the rays diffracted at an angle theta by a single slit. Now, if you consider just the first slit alone, it diffracts by itself rays at an angle theta and different values of theta. So the sum of all the rays that are converging at a point P diffracted due to the first slit will be single slit diffraction, and the field is given by E1 equal to A sine beta by beta cos omega t minus beta. You can look up the result from your previous day's notes. And of course, beta, the value of beta is pi b by lambda sine theta. And remember, I call this the diffraction parameter, and it will be clear to you today why I called this the diffraction parameter. Okay, field due to rays diffracted by the second slit, I call it E2. And again, if you consider it as a single slit by itself, then the field would have been A sine beta by beta cos omega t minus beta, because it is coming from the same source and slit width is same, small b. However, these rays differ by a phase phi prime from the rays coming out from the first slit, as I discussed in our last slide. So this entire set will be lagging behind by a value phi prime from the first set. Okay, so these are the two fields produced due to the diffraction by the first slit and the second slit respectively. Okay, and as I derived in the last slide, phi prime equal to 2 pi by lambda d sine theta. I'll pause here and I'll ask you to unmute and tell me whether it is all right with you. Do you realize why the second field is having this minus phi prime time in the cosine term? If you do not understand, please unmute and tell me, because understanding this is very important, and then I'll repeat myself once more. Is it okay with everybody? Please someone unmute and tell me if you have understood this part.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then I'll continue. I'll go ahead. And as you realize, I'll go back to my picture once more, that this set of rays coming out from the first slit is producing a field E1 at P prime. And this set of rays coming out from the second slit is producing a field E2 at the point P prime. And therefore, at P prime, the resultant field is obtained by our principle of superposition, which would be obtained by summing E1 and E2. So in order to find out the field and therefore the intensity at any point P prime on the screen, we need to add the two fields produced individually by each of the slits. Okay, so I put down the expression of the two fields E1 and E2, and taking A sine beta by beta common, we get this as cos omega t minus beta plus cos omega t minus beta minus phi prime. There will be a third bracket over here, and if you, this is very trivial trigonometry for you people, you add two cosine terms, so you get 2 cos A plus B by 2 cos A minus B by 2, and this is the result you get. Okay, A sine beta by beta of course remains in the front, and inside you get 2 cos phi prime by 2, and the varying term, the function, is given by cos omega t minus beta minus phi prime by 2. All right. So this is the field at any point P prime due to rays diffracted by the two slits individually. So the field at any point P on the screen or P prime on the screen is given by, due to double slit diffraction, is given by 2a sine beta by beta cos gamma cos omega t minus beta minus phi prime by 2, where gamma I have written for this phi prime by 2 is equal to pi d by lambda sine theta. Okay, and if you remember, this gamma is the interference parameter. All right. So the intensity of the pattern is given by the square of the amplitude, and as you can see over here that the amplitude in our single slit case, the amplitude was only a sine beta by beta. In this double slit case, it is a sine beta by beta is there. Along with it, we also have as a multiplicative factor the term cos gamma. Okay, so the amplitude is now 2a sine beta by beta into cos gamma, and therefore the intensity is square of the amplitude given by 4I0 sine square beta by beta square cos square gamma. All right, where I0 is equal to a square. I've written I0 for a square because that is the amplitude of the incoming wave, and intensity of the incident wave is I0. All right. So in general, this is the intensity that will be seen at any point P on the screen. Okay, and of course you can understand that both beta and gamma depend on the value of theta, the angle at which the ray has been diffracted, and therefore the value of I is determined depending on the value of theta. Okay. So once again, I write down the expression of the double slit intensity, 4I0 sine square beta by beta square cos square gamma, and you do realize, I presume, that the intensity is a product of two terms. Okay, what are the two terms? 4I0 is of course a constant. So the two terms that I'm talking about are sine square beta by beta square and cos square gamma. All right. So clearly, if you realize from your previous days discussions that sine square beta by beta square is the term coming from single slit diffraction. Each slit produces a pattern which has an intensity of sine square beta by beta square. This is the intensity due to single slit diffraction. And can someone realize, can someone tell me what is the term cos square gamma signifying? Have you encountered a cos square gamma term in the intensity in any one of our earlier classes? Do you remember?
Young's double slit experiment.
Young's double slit, very good. Young's double slit or two slit interference. When we have interference between two light coming from two slits, the intensity is of the pattern governed by the function cos square gamma. So this is due to double slit interference. So evidently the intensity due to double slit diffraction is a cumulative cause of single slit diffraction along with double slit interference. All right. So double slit diffraction is a combination of single slit diffraction produced by each slit of width B and double slit interference for two slits which are d distance apart. Okay. So we have to note here that when the value of B is extremely small, since beta is equal to 2 pi b, sorry, beta is equal to pi b by lambda sine theta. All right. So if b is extremely small, then pi b by lambda sine theta is also extremely small, and therefore the variation in the function sine squared beta by beta squared is almost negligible compared to the variation of the cos square gamma term, because gamma contains d. Gamma is pi d by lambda sine theta, beta is pi b by lambda sine theta. So since when, if by, just a second, if we have a setup where b is very, very small, so that b is much smaller than d, then the value of sine square, the variation in the sine squared beta term is almost negligible compared to the variation of the cos square gamma term. And then the intensity variation due to single slit diffraction is hardly noticeable. All right. And that is why we see that the intensity pattern is governed by the cos square gamma term. And what we see is double slit interference. So if you have a double slit setup where the two slit widths are extremely small, then you won't be able to see the effect of diffraction. That exactly is what happens in Young's double slit experiment. In Young's double slit experiment, we see only the cos square gamma pattern. We do not see the sine square beta by beta square pattern. But if there are two slits, then the analysis that we discussed up to here, it should be applicable no matter how large or small the slits are. Rays are coming out from the two slits, and therefore they meet at the point P on the screen, and the pattern should be of this manner, the intensity pattern. What happens is that when these slits are extremely excuse me, when these slits are extremely narrow, that is suppose made by the tip of a pin, just about a little bit of light coming in, that is when you observe only the Young's double slit intensity pattern, and the diffraction variation is not observed at all. This is very important, to understand conceptually, and it may be asked as a viva, not only in this semester, but any time later on, because these are very, very important concepts. I mean, this was asked to me when I went for my College Service Commission viva. When they asked me what topic I would like to discuss in the interview panel, I said physical optics, and this was a question that they asked me, that if in Young's double slit in a Young's double slit interference setup, why don't we see the diffraction effect? Is it that diffraction doesn't happen in Young's double slit experiment? Okay, so you have to keep this in mind, why it is not observed in Young's double slit. It happens because the slits are extremely narrow. All right. Okay. So, okay, now we move on. Once we have obtained our expression of intensity, Our next intention would be to obtain the positions of maxima and minima so that we can draw the intensity curve. All right, so maxima and minima. First, let us see when the value of the intensity goes to 0. That is the positions of the minima. Now, I can be equal to 0 either if cos square gamma equal to 0 or if sine square beta by beta square equal to 0, right? It's a product of these two terms. So if any one of these becomes 0 or if both are 0, then I will be equal to 0. So either cos square gamma equal to 0 and or sine square beta by beta square equal to 0. Okay, please don't put just or, it has to be and or because it is a product term. So when cos square gamma equal to 0, it means that gamma should be equal to odd multiple of pi by 2, which means d sine theta equal to n plus half lambda, n equal to, of course, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. And I hope all of you can identify this. D sine theta equal to n plus half lambda is the condition for interference minima. So all the positions at which the interference minima will occur will also be the positions of minima for double slit diffraction pattern, because the intensity goes to 0 at those points. And intensity goes to 0 means you will have to find a dark fringe over there. On the other hand, sine square beta by beta square equal to 0 will happen when beta equal to m pi, remember, because beta equal to 0 will give the undefined condition, which is, remember, the central maxima of our single slit pattern. So that will give a condition of maxima, not a condition of minima. So the condition of minima will be obtained only when sine squared beta equal to 0 but beta not equal to 0. So we will get I equal to 0 only when beta equal to m pi. So putting the value of beta, we get b sine theta equal to m lambda, m equal to 1, 2, 3. Once again, I'm reminding you, m not equal to 0, because m equal to 0 will give me beta equal to 0, which will give me back my condition of 0 by 0, which is the position of central maxima. So when you write this b sine theta equal to m lambda, you have to be aware that it is for m equal to 1, 2, 3, etc., not 0. You know, these small little things, often when we read from a book and there is no one to explain, these small little things sort of escape our realization, because in general it is not very important for us to realize that this is in this condition n equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, and in this condition m equal to 1, 2, 3, and the 0 is not there. It is very easy, especially when you are not experienced with the subject. It is very easy to escape your eye. But remember, this absence of 0 is one of the key factors, because the moment 0 is present, it is giving you the exactly opposite condition of maxima. With the 0 absent, it is giving you the condition of minima. So it just changes the meaning. The presence of 0 absolutely changes the meaning, you know, whether it is a dark fringe or a bright fringe. So here we are looking for the dark fringes, I equal to 0, and it is mandatory that you realize that you can't put 0 over here. Okay, so this b sine theta equal to m lambda, as we know from our discussion on single slit diffraction, that these are the positions of diffraction minima. So I equal to 0 may be either for interference minima or for diffraction minima, or both together. Okay. So minima can occur due to interference or diffraction, or both. Now usually, as I told you in the earlier slide, that B, the slit width, is much smaller than D. So even if it is not so small as to produce only the Young's double slit interference pattern, but it is still smaller than D, because in order to see a particular fringe pattern, you can't make B very large. So the variation of the diffraction term sine squared beta by beta squared is extremely slow compared to the variation of the cos square gamma term, because gamma contains d, which is much greater than b. So the maxima of the pattern is governed by the interference term cos square gamma. Now once again here you have to realize something. Minima means a dark fringe. So whether it is due to diffraction or due to interference, a dark fringe means absence of intensity. So when there is a dark fringe, whether it is due to diffraction or whether it is due to interference, it will be seen, okay? But the maxima is a high value of intensity. And this high value of intensity cannot exceed 4I0, because that is the maximum intensity that the double slit diffraction pattern can have. However, the change in the position of the maxima is governed by the function sine square beta by beta square and cos square gamma together. Now, if we have one function, which is cos square gamma over here, which changes very rapidly, we know a cosine square function changes very rapidly, and we have it superposed, because it is a product, with another function sine square beta by beta square, which is changing extremely slowly. So before the sine square beta by beta square has gone from one form to another, the cos square gamma has changed several times. Therefore, the maxima, of course, will be governed by the function that changes much more rapidly, because the variation, the rate of variation of the other function, sine square beta by beta square, is negligible compared to cos square gamma. Hence, the maxima of the pattern is governed by the interference term cos square gamma. So for maxima, we know that cos square gamma needs to be equal to 1. That is the maximum value that cos square gamma can have, and which means gamma equal to plus or minus n pi, n equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. integers. And putting the value of gamma, pi d by lambda sine theta equal to plus or minus n pi, so that d sine theta equal to plus or minus n lambda. You know, this is the exact condition for double slit interference maxima. So the condition of maxima for double slit interference is also the condition of maxima for double slit diffraction. So this is the condition for maxima. Okay, just as I told you, condition of maxima for two slit interference is also the condition of maxima for the entire pattern, of course, provided the variation of the diffraction term is not too rapid. So with these two discussions, where we realized where the positions of minima would be and the positions of maxima would be, we are now at a situation where we can draw the intensity curve. Okay. Now, before doing that, we have to discuss something else, something very interesting and something very, very important. Okay, because this is something that you have not encountered before. Missing orders. Okay, so let's see what missing orders are. Now, the condition for interference maxima, as we saw, was d sine theta equal to n lambda. And the condition of diffraction minima, we saw, was b sine theta equal to m lambda. Now, when are we talking about this? When both the conditions are satisfied for the same value of theta. So suppose we have a point P on the screen where the light that have been diffracted at the same angle theta are simultaneously satisfying the condition d sine theta equal to n lambda and b sine theta equal to m lambda, where m and n may of course vary. For the nth order of interference pattern, we are getting d sine theta equal to n lambda maximum. And for the mth order of diffraction pattern, we are getting b sine theta equal to n lambda, the minimum. Okay. Now, if you take the ratio of these two expressions, you get d by b equal to n by m. Now, n and m are integers, so we can write this as some integer p, that is n by m equal to some integer p. So we can write n equal to p times m. You see what happens when this condition is satisfied. When a given interference maxima order n is an integral multiple of the diffraction minima of order m, then something very unique happens. What is that? Let us take an example. Suppose p is equal to 5. The values of d and b are such that d by b equal to n by m equal to 5. All right. So in this equation, we have n equal to 5m. Correct? Now, what does this mean? Please, I am going slowly and you try to follow very minutely, because I have often found answer scripts where a problem of missing order, which is one of the easiest kind of problem, students go wrong just because they do not realize what exactly it is. They feel that they have realized while studying, but when doing the problem, it becomes apparent that they have actually not realized what it means. Okay, so if you find any difficulty, please unmute yourself and ask me. Okay, so when p equal to 5, for an example, n equal to 5m. Now, what does this mean? This means, see, m is the diffraction minimum order and n is the interference maximum order. So if you put m equal to 1, then you will get n equal to 5. So it means that the position of the first diffraction minima will coincide with the fifth interference maxima. M equal to 1 means first diffraction minima, and n equal to 5 means fifth interference maxima. So positions of the first diffraction minima and the fifth interference maxima are the same on the screen, which means that there is a dark fringe due to the diffraction minima overlapping the bright fringe due to the interference maxima. So the first dark fringe of the diffraction pattern is formed at the same place where the fifth bright fringe of the interference pattern has also formed. Now, when a dark fringe overlaps a bright fringe, what will happen? If a dark fringe overlaps a bright fringe, what will happen? Someone please answer. Someone please unmute and answer.
মাঝামাঝি কোনো একটা ব্রাইটনেস হয়ে যাবে তখন।
কিছুই হবে না, একটা শ্যাডো, একটা সাদা, মানে এটা সাদা জিনিসের উপর তুমি যদি একটা কালো জিনিস চাপিয়ে দাও, তাহলে তুমি কালোটাই দেখতে পাবে, সাদাটা দেখতে পাবে না। কারণ ডার্ক ফ্রিঞ্জ এক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু when you are talking about diffraction pattern, dark fringe means intensity is 0. It is not some intensity lesser than the maximum intensity. Intensity is 0. Okay. So when that overlaps a bright fringe, then you will always see only a dark fringe. The bright fringe will not be seen. কারণ ওর উপর তো একটা I equal to 0 fringe বসে আছে। All right. So when the first dark fringe due to the diffraction minima is falling at the same position as the fifth bright fringe due to interference maxima, the fifth bright fringe will not be seen. You will only see the first dark fringe of the diffraction pattern. Okay. And in the same manner, since this relation is true for the entire pattern, the position of the second diffraction minima will coincide with the 10th interference maxima. So again, where the second diffraction dark fringe is happening, simultaneously there the 10th interference bright fringe is occurring. So again, the second diffraction dark fringe will overlap the 10th interference bright fringe. And once again, the 10th interference bright fringe will not be seen. You will not be able to observe the 10th interference bright fringe because it has been overlapped by the second diffraction dark fringe. And in this manner, therefore, the mth diffraction minima will overlap the 5 mth interference maxima. All right. So in this manner, the 5th, the 10th, the 15th, the 20th, etc. interference maxima will be absent from the fringe pattern. You won't be able to see these in the fringe pattern because at these positions, the diffraction minima have also been formed and they have overshadowed the interference maxima placed at these positions. The dark fringes, due to the diffraction minima, have overlapped the bright fringes. Are all the bright fringes overlapped? Of course not. Only because of this relation n equal to 5m, or because of this relation d equal to 5b over here, those integral multiples of the interference bright fringes are absent. So all the p times integral multiples of the interference bright fringes are absent. And you will realize this from this pattern that, see, missing orders are 5, 10, 15, etc. because d by b equal to 5. So you see the 5th fringe. So this is the central fringe. So if you count these are the interference fringes, bright fringes. The peaks mean the bright fringes. So this is the interference maxima. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bright fringe is absent. Okay. Again 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th fringe is absent. Same thing on the other side, symmetric. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bright fringe is absent. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th bright fringe is absent. And if you continue in both sides, you will see that the 15th, the 20th, etc. bright fringes are absent from this fringe pattern. So these are therefore called the missing orders. All right. And so the definition of a missing order is, in a double slit setup, if some interference maxima coincide with the diffraction minima, then the corresponding orders of maxima are missing from the pattern and they are called the missing orders. Okay. Not all interference maxima are absent. Of course, then of course you won't have the fringe pattern at all. It will be a dark screen. Some interference maxima, those which coincide with the diffraction minima, those orders are missing from the pattern and they are called the missing orders. Okay, please go through this slide once, read through this, and if you have a book, then read through that book. If you realize that at any point you have any gap in the understanding, then please do get back to me. Okay, you can ask me over WhatsApp, you can call me, but please make your concept of missing orders very, very clear. All right. And remember, when you are given missing order, problems are very, very common in your exam. So when you are given a problem, it may read like this. A double slit setup is made with fringe with slit width, say 1 millimeter, and opaque space 3 millimeters. what are the positions of the missing orders. Now, the commonest mistake that people make is that they take the ratio as 3 by 1. The ratio will not be 3 by 1 because the ratio is not A by B. Opaque space means A. The ratio is D by B. So the ratio is A plus B by B. So the ratio in this case will be 3 plus 1 in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. So the ratio will be 4. All right. So in that case, the value of P will be 4, and which will be the missing orders? 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, etc. fringes will be missing from the pattern, and they will be the missing orders. So this is a very, very common mistake that I've seen, that people, the student tend to take the ratio as A by B. And the problem is invariably given with not D and B, but with A and B. You have to realize that D is equal to A plus B, and the opaque space is A. So this is a point, this is a mistake that I have encountered several times in answer scripts, and that is why I wanted to tell you, so that you do not make the same mistake. So if you have a book, or if you take a printout of this, or if you have a note or something, please write this somewhere and encircle it, that this ratio is of D by B, which means it is of A plus B by B. Okay. So now that we know where the positions of minima are and where the positions of maxima are, and also we realize the fact that in this case there may be some positions where the maxima will be absent because of the phenomena of missing orders, we now move over to actually drawing the intensity pattern for double slit diffraction. All right.
Ma'am,
So,
I have a question.
হ্যাঁ বলো। Yes,
বলছি,
go ahead.
if there is a region where the darkness and brightness overlap, then there should
Yes.
be brightness. Uh, where should there be darkness?
Okay, you put off all the lights in your room. Okay, switch off all the lights in your room and light up a torch, say your mobile torch, and flash it on a wall. So you'll see a patch of light. Clear? Now you put some book, or say another phone, or some paper or something in front of this patch of light. Will you be able to see the light?
ম্যাম, কোথায় ধরবো? ওই যে কোথায় ধরতে বললেন?
আলোটার সামনে।
হ্যাঁ, আলোটার সামনে যদি ধরি, তাহলে তো পিছনে দেখা যাবে না দেওয়ালে।
হ্যাঁ, দেওয়ালে দেখা যাবে না তো, তাহলে তো ওভারল্যাপ করে গেল।
আমি বলছি, যদি কোথাও একটা ডার্কনেস হয়, তাহলে তো সেখানে লাইট নেই, আর তারপরে যদি ওখানে ব্রাইটনেস কোনো রকমে ঢুকে পড়ে।
না, এখানে আচ্ছা বুঝতে পেরেছি আমি তুমি কি ভাবছো। তুমি বলছো যে ধরো একটা রুম ডার্ক আছে, দেওয়ালটা ডার্ক, সেখানে তুমি লাইট ফেললে তাহলে তো সেখানে লাইট হয়ে গেল, এটা বলছো তো? হ্যাঁ, এখানে কিন্তু সেটা হচ্ছে না। এখানে তুমি একটা ইন্টেন্সিটি প্যাটার্ন দেখছো, যেখানে মানে ওগুলো লাইটটা কিন্তু আলাদা আলাদা করে ঢুকছে না, একসাথে ঘটনাটা ঘটছে। এবং ইন্টেন্সিটি প্যাটার্নটা যখন এই কথাটা খুব important, when both conditions are satisfied for the same value of theta. Okay, so I go back to my first picture. This. Where is it? Okay, so I go back to this picture. Single slit diffraction occurring for both the slits. All right, so this slit is producing single slit diffraction at an angle theta and producing a particular field at this point, and then these two are again producing together a field. Now, although the single slit diffractions are occurring, do we get to see the single slit pattern separately? No, we see the combined pattern because of single slit diffraction and double slit interference. So that is why the interference term is a combination of two terms, sine square beta by beta square and cos square gamma. All right. Now we see that the minimum is due to 0 for both. So since the intensity is a product term, so if any one of them becomes 0, then the intensity will be 0.
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম
All
বুঝেছি,
right.
বলছি মানে there is no light to interfere.
There is no light to interfere. It is not as if a separate light is coming in to overlap the shadow. Do you realize? It is happening together. So if any one of these terms is 0, the intensity becomes 0. Now, if the value of theta becomes such that by chance at the same position, the intensity, now again you have to realize that intensity can be 0 either if there is a diffraction minima or if there is an interference maxima. But it can be that it is the or condition and not the and condition, right? So I am talking about a position where diffraction minima is there, but interference minima is not there. What is there? Interference maxima. But since diffraction minima is there, the product becomes 0. So intensity has to be 0 over there. So even though there is a interference maxima over there, still it cannot be seen because the diffraction minima makes the intensity 0. পরিষ্কার হয়েছে?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম।
Okay. Okay. So now we are at a position to draw the intensity pattern. So we are now at a position to draw the intensity distribution. All right. As I told you, the intensity, as we have been discussing, that it is a combination of single slit diffraction and double slit interference. So let us first recap the intensity diffractions due to single slit diffraction and double slit interference. So this is the single slit diffraction pattern, sine square beta by beta square, as we discussed in our last class. And this is the double slit interference pattern, right? Cos square gamma. So in this case now, there will be a combination of these two which will produce the resultant intensity pattern on the screen. And the combination looks like this. So here, see, the purple lines are due to the interference term cos square gamma, and this blue line here is due to the diffraction term sine square beta by beta square. So basically there are the interference peaks which will be enveloped by the diffraction pattern. So the resultant pattern will be this red one. Okay. So this is the combined pattern. Remember, these pink things will not be there in the combined pattern. This is the original, the actual interference term, cos square gamma. The blue one is the sine square beta by beta square alone. The purple one is the cos square gamma alone. This modulated, so the diffraction envelope is modulating the interference intensity pattern. And what we see is just the combined pattern, that is the modulated pattern. So this is what we see on the screen. Intensity peaks modulated by the diffraction envelope, so that it is only in the central bright fringe that we see extremely prominent interference, bright and dark lines. But as we discussed in our last class, that when we go to the higher order maxima in case of diffraction, remember, the intensity reduces drastically. The secondary maxima of a diffraction pattern have intensities which are drastically smaller than the central fringe intensity, and therefore this eventually reduces the value of the intensity due to the double slit interference also. So although these peaks will be present, but their intensities will be dramatically smaller than the intensity that you see for the bright fringes within the central fringe. And you can realize what happens in Young's double slit experiment, where we see only double slit interference, only this, and not this combined pattern. Although of course, since there are two slits, double slit diffraction will be occurring. As I told you that the change in this sine square beta by beta square is extremely small. So when the value of B is so small that this is changing, very, very slowly. So what we see on the screen is only the central fringe. By the time the pattern, the envelope has reached its first minima, the screen ends. So we only see the central maxima of the diffraction pattern, and since we don't realize the presence of the diffraction envelope, because these are not there on the screen, we see only the interference pattern. So this again is a very, very important slide where you have to realize why the kind of intensity distribution that we get in case of a double slit diffraction looks like what it does. Okay, I'll just repeat quickly. Single slit diffraction, sine square beta by beta square. Double slit interference, cos square gamma. Combination, cos square gamma, which changes very rapidly, is modulated by the slowly changing sine square beta by beta square, and the resultant is this modulated interference curve. What is the modulation because of? Because of the presence of the diffraction envelope. Okay, so I presume that these four pictures will explain clearly the pattern, the intensity distribution pattern for double slit diffraction. Okay, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll proceed. And once again, now this is what you actually see in the laboratory. Okay, so this is with actual values. They have given a value of lambda. B is 2 into 10 to the power minus 4 meters. A is 6. I think it's 6 or 5 into 10 to the power minus 4 meter. Capital D is 1 meter, that is the distance between the screen and the slits, and A by B is 3, so that these are the missing orders, and you see this is the central maxima where the interference fringes, bright and dark, are extremely bright. And then when you go to the secondary maxima of the diffraction pattern, the fringes are still there, but their brightness reduced dramatically. Okay, and these are the positions of the missing order. So what you see on the screen is exactly this kind of a pattern, and it is very, very difficult because of the low intensity to see orders of secondary maxima higher than about, say, the second or third order. It becomes extremely difficult to see higher order secondary maxima. And do you realize that when the value of B is very small, it is only this part that we see on the screen giving us double slit interference pattern. Okay, we also have to keep an idea of what angular width of the pattern is. Angular width, as you can see, is this, the width of this in terms of the angle that it makes, that is subtends at the central point of the screen. So we saw that nth diffraction minimum is formed at b sine theta equal to n lambda, and therefore n plus 1th diffraction, immediately next diffraction minimum, will be formed at b sine theta equal to n plus 1 lambda, so that the angular width between the consecutive minima is sine theta n plus 1 minus sine theta n, which is given by lambda by b. So you see that this width is a constant. It does not depend on the order. For any two consecutive diffraction minima, lambda by b is the width of the angle between them. Alright. So theta, the angle between the two consecutive minima, is given by sine inverse lambda by b, or rather theta equal to lambda by b. Okay. On the other hand, the nth interference maximum will occur at d sine theta equal to n lambda, and so the n plus 1th interference maxima will occur at, sorry, this will be d sine theta, I'm so sorry, this will be d sine theta equal to n plus 1 lambda. And so the angular width between the consecutive maxima in this case is given by, once again, lambda by d. Alright, so the two consecutive interference maxima will be at an angular distance lambda by d from each other, and two consecutive diffraction minima will be at a distance lambda by b from each other. And once again, you realize that when b is very, very small, this angular width is very large. So the angle, so you know, the spread between this first minimum and the second minimum is very, very large. So it is the central maximum that covers the entire area. Alright? Okay. So now, so these are the two values that you should keep in mind. Also comes handy when you have to do problems. So now let us quickly see what are the factors affecting the double slit interference pattern. Effect of increasing the slit width. What will happen if you increase the slit width? Sine theta, as we saw, if theta is very small, then sine theta is approximately equal to theta is equal to lambda by b. So the angular width is of the order of lambda by b. So if b is increased, then theta is decreased. What does that mean? The angular width of the diffraction fringes decrease. Angle between the width between two minima decrease means, two consecutive minima decrease means the spread of the maxima that is in between, that reduces. So if the central maxima reduces in width, it will become sharper, central peak becomes sharper, and therefore, since nothing has happened to the interference fringes, this sharp fringe will obviously accommodate a lesser number of interference fringes. Okay, what does that mean? Just a second. Okay. This is what I mean. So see, if this peak becomes this peak, if this peak becomes sharper, this width, if it decreases, then this peak becomes sharper. And so suppose now it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 interference fringes. If it becomes sharper, it would accommodate lesser than 7 number of interference fringes. Okay. Did I delete a slide just now? Or I just deleted a particular slide. Okay. All right. Okay, so you realize that if you increase the slit width, then the central maxima would become sharper and it would accommodate lesser number of interference fringes. What happens if you increase the slit separation? That is, suppose you increase the value of B, then D increases the slit separation. Now theta, the angular width between interference maxima, is given by lambda by D. So if D is increased, then this theta decreases. All right, so the angular width of the interference fringes will become lesser, and that would mean that more interference fringes will be accommodated within the central maxima. So once again I go back to this figure. See, if the angular width between of an interference fringe decreases, so these become sharper, so more number of fringes will come and gather inside the central maxima. Okay. And finally, if lambda, the wavelength of the incident light, is increased, as you can see that both the diffraction angular width and the interference angular width contains lambda in the numerator. So both the angular widths will increase if the incident wavelength increases. So angular width for both patterns will increase. So once again, I keep an eye on this figure, so you can realize that this is a very, very important figure in terms of double slit diffraction pattern. These are the interference fringes enveloped by the diffraction curve so that we get a modulated pattern, and the angular width of the diffraction pattern depends on B, the value of the width of each slit, whereas the angular width of the interference fringe depends on D, the slit separation. So it is the setup which means the value of slit width B, slit separation D, and incident wavelength lambda that will decide the nature of the pattern, whether the central peak is sharp, whether the interference peaks are sharp, whether if B is very small, then the central peak is very, very flat, and then you get to see only the interference peaks. So everything will be decided by only 3 factors. And if you keep the light constant, say you are using monochromatic sodium light, then depends on only 2 factors, B and D, which means B and A. So you realize that the value of B and A are the governing factors of the kind of pattern that you're going to observe in case of a double slit diffraction. This will be diffraction pattern, not interference pattern. I'll make the necessary corrections and then send you the file, okay? Okay. Again, this is a very, very favorite question of question setters. A comparison between single slit and double slit diffraction. First of all, the main difference is in the intensity pattern, okay? So if you basically draw this, you should get the marks. This is the single slit intensity pattern and this is the double slit intensity pattern. So basically single slit accommodating some interference fringes because there is also another slit from which light is coming in. And this is how they look. This is the single slit, you know, this is the central maximum, and the secondary maxima are very, very feeble. Intensity of the secondary maxima are extremely feeble. And then this is the double slit where you have kept the slit width same, but you only have drawn in another slit. So there are now bright and dark fringes within the central maxima, and in the higher orders too you have bright and dark fringes, and this is the double slit pattern. Okay, this is what your graph shows. This is what you actually see in the laboratory. And I've jotted down the points of comparison between single slit and double slit. Central bright region followed by secondary maxima. Equally spaced interference fringes modulated by a diffraction envelope. Then spacing and intensity of the pattern is governed by the factor B, just B, because there is just B. And in this case, spacing and intensity governed by both factors B and D. Both are equally important, okay? Of course, in single slit, there is no possibility of missing orders, whereas in double slit, missing orders are present. All right, so that more or less covers our discussion on double slit diffraction. Do you want me to go to multiple slit or will that be too much? Bolo. Multiple